Well, good morning, everybody. James Manson here, constitutional lawyer, and also in this case, class action defense lawyer, coming to you from Toronto. It is July 31st, and it's the dog days of summer, and of course, that means that, ties are optional. I just wanted to check in with everybody about the class action that's going on. This is the Freedom Convoy class action that's happening in Ottawa. As we all recall, Zexi Li and some of her supporters have launched a massive class action lawsuit in Ottawa against the Freedom Convoy supporters and truckers and donors, seeking about $300 million in damages for what they claim was a massive nuisance that was perpetrated on them during the Freedom Convoy protests back in 2022. So there hasn't been an update for quite some time about this case, and I just wanted to, just jump online and tell everybody what's been happening. In short, we are now working toward what we call the certification phase of this case. What that is a motion in court where the plaintiffs, that is Mr. Champ's clients, will need to convince the court that this case is in fact one that is appropriate as a class action. So a class action, I won't go into great detail, but basically a class action is a procedural mechanism where a whole bunch of plaintiffs who have the same issue or a similar issue to, vis-a-vis each other, are grouped together in order to make it more efficient. Because you don't want to have, for example, 50 or 60 different plaintiffs suing the same person for the same issue, perhaps a defective pacemaker or a defective, some kind of a defective product. It's better to just do it all at once. So rather than having 60 different lawsuits where you could have 60 or 70 different verdicts or outcomes, that's not necessarily the best thing. It's better to do it once and to have the same outcome for all 60 people. So that's essentially what a class action does. It groups together plaintiffs who have common issues. So anyway, that motion has now been scheduled. This morning we had a case conference with His Honor Justice McLeod, and we set a timetable for the hearing of that certification motion. So that certification motion will take place next year, actually. It's next July 6, 7, and 8 in Ottawa, 2026. So we've got a year basically to prepare. Both sides have a year to prepare their evidence, their affidavit evidence. There will be cross-examinations on the contents of people's affidavits. There could be small motions in between those deadlines, and there also will be time for people to prepare their legal arguments, their legal briefs, and then we'll be working towards the July 6th hearing date. So that's quite a bit of time. So really nothing much will happen substantively between now and then, other than preparing for the big motion. So if the class action does get certified by the judge, which means that he will agree with the plaintiffs that the case is suitable as a class proceeding to move forward, then we would be talking about discoveries and how to get this to the actual trial, which again could take a matter of, well, it could take a couple of years from that point. So we're still quite a ways away from a final determination of this issue. If the parties aren't able, I should say if the plaintiffs aren't able to convince the judge that this is a class proceeding, an appropriate class proceeding, then it would still continue, but it would only be an individual proceeding. That means that Zexi Li and her named plaintiff colleagues, I think it's Jeffrey Devaney, the Happy Goat Coffee Company, and others, they would still proceed, but not as a class of plaintiffs. They would proceed as individual plaintiffs only. So rather than 25,000 different plaintiffs grouped together, they would only have 4. So that would be a completely different case. And the amount of damages would, of course, be far different than if it gets certified. So as you can imagine, this is a very important motion for both sides. In the meantime, the timetable that we've set today has Mr. Champ's evidence coming in on September 15th. Our responding evidence will be due on December 19th. And then from there, we'll be into the new year, and we'll be looking at cross-examinations and potentially any procedural motions coming out of that, and then working towards the legal briefs, which will be due April, May, June, around those times, leading again to the July 7, 8, and 9 hearing dates. So that is the update for you all today in the class action. I will be in touch as events develop, but thanks for listening, and I hope everyone's enjoying their summer. Cheers. Bye.